Yo, I'm here sitting here. Well, I'm laying here thinking, right? Yo, when a copycat has to copy and paste, they're building off the backs of others, right? In a way where they're building themselves up by, Jesus. It's like, someone trying to build up their own pyramid on the back of others, hoping that everyone stays on their hands and knees, assuming everyone will go on their hands and knees in order for them to climb up to the top of the pyramid type of thing, right? But that's the thing. When they're taking blocks off of others' creativity, right? It's like history repeating itself over and over again. The creative one has to be in a slump, where they have to be depressed, or in a slump where they're depressed. They're just not creative. And that's where the swiper comes swiping, you know? But they're swiping blocks off of a foundation that they know nothing about. Whereas they see the prettiness on the outside, And this is where the mirror plays, the mirror image plays, the mirror magic plays, comes in, right? Where what people see is usually not what they get, right? Because, sometimes we see pretty shit, but the soul is just rotten. Or a good amount of times you see pretty shit. Well, pretty people, right? That fine shit. Yeah. And it's a beautiful heart there too. So this is where discernment comes in. And it's just really understanding that, the mirror will fool you, but at the same time, you will fool yourself, right? And those that really do believe that to copy is to make them brand new is only fooling themselves because to build off the back of others, you build basically doing what history has always been doing, repeating itself. Whereas the creativity is in a repetitive cycle of repeating themselves because those that lack creativity have to take from other people. So just imagine hard the hard work that they really have to put into manipulating folks into going on their hands and knees just so that they can climb on their back, on their literal man made pyramid. But they have to scam and scheme, not only of people's money, but of their time, their energy, their hearts, and their mind, their hearts too, all to gain their own favor from taking favors by way of basically manipulating people into bending at the knee and putting their hands down for them to step. Because the work to put in to dig deep in your own creativity takes work. But it is easier to get wholesale. It is easier to, manipulate and keep your hands out for a sad story. Whereas the story should be what actually makes them. Yet, but is the story even real that they actually started with? To actually get people to bend at, you know, their knees and actually touch the floor with their hands for them or touch the dirt with their hands for them to be used to climb up. Gotta wonder though. Note the most I got you. Have a good one. Bye. Oh, that actually brings me back to the whole feminine masculine thing, or the masculine feminists. Those are really the quickest ones to pluck the violin and be the damsels in distress all of a sudden. Note the most I got you. Have a good one. Bye. I forgot what the heck I was saying at that moment because I was about to close out, right? But it's the building of a slippery slope. That's what it is when it comes to the copying mechanism because they have to copy and paste. Oh man. You know, when they're copying and pasting, it's literally copying and pasting little pieces of another story to make up a whole story. So is this another Eve in pieces that's gathering others? It is. Oh gosh. So they're basically going to attract other copies that's pasting a life to make it seem like a life. The ones that are living in rose-colored glasses in their own life. So they're magnifying their own, they're magnifying to magnetizing their own copies. Bless you, of the same copies. So did they just turn themselves into bots? Did a copy just turn more copies into bots to just basically copy? Because more than likely, those are the ones that, oh no, because now they're doing infringing things. Oh well. But I can't read that. It's too small. But it's a slippery slope altogether, right? Because if you're taking blocks of from someone else's foundation to actually try to thrive off of, eventually those blocks will slide because that's actual people who would literally stay, well, manipulation and trickery. Because some people will willingly do it if they're paid, the right amount of money and fed the right amount of things or given, you know. Because I'm pretty sure there's breaks in between being on your hands and knees just for someone to keep climbing up consistently, just to sit at the top of the pyramid off of copies. But again, depending on the weather, sweat, the cold, how long can they hold up the energy? And then it brings me back to the masculine, feminine, feminine, masculine, the energy of the unbalanced energy, the use of the ego, the arrogance, and pride when it comes to, you know, the masculine, feminine, or the feminine, masculine, and how the energy is used in order to control. And that's how false pyramids are built off the false images, because all those are hiding behind masks, because everyone wants to be on top of the pyramid by way of taking from others stability. Because if you're unstable, they'll feel better about their instability by way of making you unstable, just so that when somebody wobbles, and they trip and fall, it still doesn't look like a trip and fall because they can blame the human that's on their bended knees. That's fucking nuts. But titles and positions will do it. It can be family and friends that'll do the same thing to you and have you at the bended knee just so that they can climb up on you and then turn around and blame you for wobbling, for moving out of place, or for even be thirsty, or for even wanting to eat your own food. But to copy and paste is a lot more of a profession, but motherfuckers got certificates in that shit. They got degrees. They can teach classes nowadays, but they still lack the creativity. They still lack that spark of that zhuzh of what's it in them. They have to buy it. They have to copy it. They have to paste it. They have to pretend about it. But how long could you actually pretend others' works before you actually come up with your own work? But then again, to put it all together, that is work. Oh man. But that's the way of the world because look at history. It is a complete copycat of the actual copies of the blueprints that's still walking around, multiplying itself over and over again for time and time again. Hi, everybody. Appreciate the stars. Hmm. But that was it. I appreciate the lights. Thank ya. And I'll be back again for another thought. Well, with another thought. I don't know. You know, the Library of Alexandria, right? Where it has everyone's diary. You can go in it and look. It's like the Akashic records, right? Well, not necessarily the Akashic records because that's yours, but people do try to tap into it and try to mar it up and scar it and do some dumb shit with it. Then they wonder why their own life is topsy turvy. It's crazy, but yeah. The Library of Alexandria is where we studied each other, right? We studied our experience or studied life through others' eyes, like being in one big classroom throughout the world by way of books, their diary, their journal, you know? It was just experiencing what is this? How am I saying it? Because I just did a live on speaking your story, telling your story. You're just speaking your truth and walking your truth will help another. It's the same thing with the experiences from another spirit, from another library, well, from another book out of that library. It's to basically get a gist of what might can happen before it happens, type of shit. That was it. Ran out of thought. No, the most I got you. I'll be back again another time. Right. It's 3:31 here. Yeah, that's it. Have a good one.